Walking along a path at the roots of Pikes Peak, you take a fork in the road toward the Anselm Society Digital Pub. Inside is a raucous conversation on the arts, faith, and maybe a little arguing about the best kind of story. In a corner by the fire are three people. One of them is assigning her favorite books to everyone else in the pub. And that's me, Mandy Houck. Welcome to Believe to See, a podcast of the Anselm Society Arts Guild. Here at Believe to See, we explore the relationship between faith, art, and storytelling. Our goal is to connect the great story, the great stories, and our own stories, so that we can better understand what it means to live with a Christian imagination. At the table today, we're discussing the joy and frustration of trying to get your friends and family, maybe a few strangers, on board with the kinds of stories, music, art, etc. that connects with your heart the most. So today, joining me today are Evangeline and Matt. Matt, how are you?
I'm doing good. And, as you were talking about recommending books, I finally finished reading Peace Like a River.
Oh, yay! I've assigned it to you for, I don't know.
And I completed the homework. Oh, more than a year. Several years. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you have an opinion?
I do.
That I will
think
like?
Objectively, it was a really great book.
Okay.
It was outstanding.
You got past the legal
I was able to look past the
conundrum.
Yeah, I'm still a little hung up on that, but I was able to get past it.
But it's not a law book. It's not a John Grisham.
Yeah, John Grisham's worst. Don't get me started on that. But,
another podcast.
Hot take. But I thought it was an excellent book. Mm-hmm. Now, the other question is, did I enjoy reading it? That's what I'm trying to figure out because...
Oh, dear.
Not gonna lie, being stuck in North Dakota in 1960 in February was a little bleak, but it was an outstanding book. Like, you're right.
But you were in an Airstream trailer.
You are right. It was a great book. Yeah.
Are you glad that you read it?
I'm very glad that I read it.
Oh, that's all I need to know. So, Evangeline, let's just cut Matt off now because he said he was glad. How are you?
I'm good. I have not read Peace Like a River.
Uh-oh.
And honestly, it's not high on my list.
Why? Well, it's not really your kind of book. And that is sort of
feel
where...
so guilty.
No, you don't have to feel guilty. I know I have the English teacher, you must read this energy.
She even has the glasses
vibe.
like...
I have a strong librarian vibe. Yes, I do have my glasses on, Matt. What's your point?
Well, and you're like leaning them down so they're out the tip of your nose. Like, you're about to give us a lecture.
It's because they're my reading glasses.
Strong librarian vibe.
20 years from now, you will understand why the glasses are at the tip of the nose.
I kind of want to have a librarian vibe.
I am very flattered that I have a librarian vibe, so I appreciate that. But, sort of leads us into the topic of the day, which is, I understand Peace Like a River might not be your vibe. So how do we decide? It's tempting to try to convince people to love what we love.
Yes. And to tell them they're wrong.
And to tell them they're wrong. Exactly. Like the people who think sad stories are bad.
Yeah.
What's the point of a not sad story? I'm not sure. Anyway.
There's a sad twist at the end of Peace Like a River, guys. Just so you know.
You thought the end was sad?
You mean the...
No, don't spoil it.
How was the novel?
It was a great ending. It ended correctly.
Boom.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it was sad.
Well, it was sad, but with hope.
Okay.
Right?
Sad things happened.
And there was hope.
Okay. I'll give you that.
All right. Thank you. Let's move on. Okay. Anyway. So the point is, as we are hearing right now, sometimes you try to convince people to love what you love. And have you guys I assume you've had that experience. Evangeline, I know your brother has been trying to convince you for quite some time.
he has been trying to convince me to like games with little success so far.
Not games in general.
RPGs, yes.
RPGs.
Role-playing games.
We're not talking Monopoly and Boggle.
Right. Yeah. Which I don't like Monopoly, but
Yeah,
that's a
no,
whole other
me
podcast. But actually, I wasn't going to talk about role-playing games.
Oh, what were you going to... Yes.
As the art form that someone has tried to convince me to like. So
Yes.
this is... I think we were going to talk about art forms or genres that other people want us to like, and then art forms or genres that we try to convince other people, right?
Yes, that's the game
So
plan.
are we diving into...
Let's dive into what people are trying to coerce you into liking.
Okay.
Yes.
I am a mom of young people.
Yes.
I am sure that I am not alone in having young people try to convince me to like anime.
Okay.
Yeah. So this has been going on.
A journey?
This has been a journey.
Okay.
This has been, and it's funny because this is going to connect later on. Because I was like, as I was thinking about this podcast and thinking about what it has been a hard sell for me, and
Yes.
then what I try and sell other people, I'm like, oh, that is a crazy weird connection. But so my kids love anime, like many kids, right now love anime. And I just like the first couple of times that they're like, Mom, watch this. And I'd be like, what on earth? I have no idea what's going on. It's not even like, I was raised on Disney animation stuff. I'm like,
Animation and anime are not the same.
Obviously anime, comes from Japan. Like literally that term refers to Japanese animation. I'm like, what is happening? What are these characters doing? I am so confused, and everything is so strong. Everything is so like in your face. This was like the first few things that I probably liked. Naruto was one of the first.
What was that? Naruto? Okay, Naruto. I haven't watched any of it. My kids are older than yours. Yeah, so I have not been roped in.
Those were probably some of the first ones that they were watching, and I was just boggled, and it kind of fell into the same sort of camp as my kids, saying, Mom, guess what? In Roblox, blah, 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 ad nauseum, 30 minutes later.
Well, I do think what you're saying is significant just culturally, because I know even when I was growing up, like, I was in high school, like in the early aughts, anime was very much in the culture, but it was a niche thing in the culture. Mm-hmm. Like you didn't watch anime unless you were an anime kid. Like it was basically your whole identity if you watched anime. It was assumed that if you were like, if you had other stuff going on, you didn't watch it. So I kind of missed.
So if you had a life, you didn't watch it?
That's what I decided not to. That's why I decided not to phrase it.
I said it for you.
I missed the boat on it. But even like back when my younger brothers were coming up, they're already anime shows. So like Avatar: The Last Airbender, that sort of stuff. Pokemon was coming up too. So I feel like I missed the boat.
Right.
So it is just such a different style that I have a hard time getting into it. Mm-hmm. And now, like you said, like it's not like it's just thing. If you're a kid, you probably like anime. It's just ubiquitous now.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned Last Airbender, because I think probably that was the first, which, to be exact, Last Airbender was made by Western
animators?
Creators. Yes. Okay. So, but it is, I think, a tribute. It is in the style of, I don't know, we could argue, we could argue cultural appropriation or not. I think it's pretty honoring to the style.
Okay.
And it is really good storytelling.
It's a good gateway into the rest of like the Japanese made anime.
Yeah.
Okay, where does Totoro fall in? Because that's the only thing I've heard of.
Totoro is just pure.
Totoro.
Okay, we'll get
Okay, Totoro, my Bethany loves Totoro, and I don't even know what that means.
Totoro is it's like a fairy story, and it's just
it's
so
fae or not fae. It's fae.
It's fae. The Japanese fae. Yeah.
Okay.
And it is just comforting and wholesome in the best way and just lovely.
Okay.
But it took me a while to get there.
Mm-hmm.
I think although Totoro was probably one of the ones we watched when they were younger, and I probably didn't know at that time that it really was anime.
And that was a film, right?
And it's Studio Ghibli's, so it's a little bit different, I think, than your Pokemon.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
Like Studio Ghibli will do like really, really excellent stuff. Like just like good, like literary sort of movies.
Yeah, I think if you watch, Howl's Moving Castle, Spirited Away, or whatever, and you're not like, okay, this is an art form, then that, I don't know. I don't know what else could convince you.
You know what? Honestly, I feel like part of this, I'm hitting on part of the problem. Because I'm like, I've heard of Spirited Away. I don't know if I knew that qualified as anime.
It does.
And I mean, this is my ignorance. But I think that's part of the problem is sometimes when there's an art form or a genre of music or stories or visual arts, I think a lot of what makes us hesitant to buy in is our lack of understanding of the broadness of whatever category we're talking about.
Right. So yeah, I'm watching like Totoro with my kids when they're little and going, oh, this is such a sweet story and it's so heartwarming and so, healthy in so many ways, and not really connecting that with anime because, I'm busy and I'm raising, small children and I'm not thinking about anime every single day. No. And then they get a little older and it's like, Mom, Pokemon. And I'm like, oh.
You don't connect the two.
Right.
What were you going to say, Matt?
Yeah, I was just going to say something similar because when I think when a lot of us think of anime, we think of that style where it's like the two like really buff guys with pink spiky hair like yelling at each other with like wavy with like action lines in the background.
And running with their arms behind them.
Yeah, and we're just
That's how I run. No, I don't run.
And so that's still the image that comes to mind when I think of anime. But yeah, when you think of like, no, Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, all this other stuff, like there's a lot of stuff under that umbrella.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I have homework. I need to watch Spirited Away.
Ooh, I'm giving Mandy homework.
There we go.
It's about time.
That's exciting. But it's like, there's so many animes, and since then I've had like, different conversations, not just with my kids. Although one of the things that I love about watching anime with my oldest, who is on the autism spectrum, and so he's very deliberate in a lot of the ways that he communicates. So he's been trying to sell me on anime for the longest time. So we'll watch different animes, and he was making me watch Attack on Titan, Attack of the Titan, something like that.
He was joining you.
He was yes. And so at the end he would say, "So, Mom, what did you like? What did you not like?" And he makes me think. He makes me think.
He's like developing his own algorithm for you too. So like next time he can be like, okay, I'll take this. Maybe she'll like this one.
Well, it worked. It worked too because we tried a couple, anime shows, and I would be like, oh, like I can't take the like heightened emotion all the time. It's like all the time in your face. Why are they yelling at me all the time? And he's like, okay, Mom, I get it. So we try something else, and we eventually found a Demon Slayer, which, I know that sounds kind of like what, but it's so entertaining. It's so good. And I'm like, okay, I can jive with this.
Oh, that's so great, though. So to come together over something he loves, that he's finally found a way to help you love it too.
Yeah, and I feel like...
And that creates community.
So, like, horrible, because I would, like, try. But he's like, persistent. He wants to know. He really wants me to say, what is it you liked, and what is it you didn't like? And, and then have that conversation. And
that's great.
Since we were able to have that, we now, have found things that we both
It's like passion plus... perspective.
Right. And kind of willingness to be patient And he's so patient with me.
Oh.
You know, and I can be a little snot and be like, why are they... And part of it, I think, is like, he likes... there's this, like, big subtitles versus dubbed, you know? And there's this whole, like, you know, schism.
I would way rather have subtitles.
I'd rather have subtitles.
Yes. Yeah, but he likes dubbed.
Oh, really?
So I think that's part of why, like, I'm like, I don't understand. This isn't translating the, like, you know, English... dubbed,
right?
Like, you know, so I think that may be part of it.
That's true.
Anyway.
Well, I'm hard of hearing, so oftentimes I have to, especially if it's accents, like Great British Baking Show, I have to have subtitles on. So I've sort of leaned towards subtitles anyway.
Yeah,
but yeah, so I don't know. What about you, Matt? What have people tried to convince you to love?
Yeah,
and were they successful or not?
I'll answer your second question first. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So a little background on me. I have 2 younger brothers. So there's us 3 boys growing up for my mom. And every now and then growing up, my mom would, you know, one could say she would play the guilt card, perhaps. See, like, hey, boys, I watch all these...
the job of
all these sports with you, blah, 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 blah. Can you at least watch this movie with me?
Go, Mom.
Yeah. So I had a conflicted relationship with romantic comedies for a long time.
Okay, rom-com.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have since tried to come around on them. I will say... There's some genres that I love so much that I'll watch a movie even if I know it's kind of a bad example.
Right.
You know, like, you know, I've talked about this detective fiction. I have detective fiction, so I'll watch it even if it's like just an okay detective book, right?
Right.
But I have realized something about rom-coms where if it is like the, you know, kind of cookie cutter, you know, Hallmark or like typical rom-com popcorn flick, I hate it so much.
Yeah.
I just hate it. I can't do it. I find up just saying things about like how much I don't like love or all this stuff.
Yeah. What is it you don't like, do you think?
I dislike... This is what I was trying to figure out when I was trying to figure out if I like the genre or not.
Okay.
Where most of the time, when you're just watching a movie and there's just sort of a romantic subplot...
Yeah.
99% of the time, I dislike it. I don't like love stories that seem rote. I don't like all that emotion. Maybe it reminds me of when I was 18 and I feel embarrassed for my past self.
Oh, cringe.
Maybe I just... I don't know, but like the whole... meet cute, all the stuff on like you'd see like on like a Hallmark film. Whenever I have to watch one, it just is like pulling teeth. I can't do it when it's like a bad example. But like Danielle, a few nights ago, I was some friends, so she was home, sort of on her own. So she watched one romantic comedy that she liked, and then this other one she was like, yeah, it was pretty cheesy, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Nope, I can't do that. But with that said, there are some examples of romantic comedies that I do like. So if I can throw them out there, present them to like the panel, maybe we can get something here. Okay. I just saw this one for the first time like a month or so ago, and I absolutely loved it.
Okay.
When Harry Met Sally.
Oh, of course. You only saw that a couple months ago?
I know.
That is one of the best ones ever, and can I tell you?
Classic.
The couples on the sofa when they're talking about like when it interrupts the narrative and it's like he rode up 9 extra floors just to talk to me. That whole thing. Every single one of those stories is a real story.
Really?
Yes. Rob Reiner solicited real stories. So some of the couples are actors, but some of them are actually the couple. I don't know like the breakdown of which ones are real and which ones aren't. But oh my gosh, I love When Harry Met Sally.
I thought When Harry Met Sally was great. It was really great dialogue.
Yes.
Billy Crystal was fantastic.
Oh, as always.
Her and Meg Ryan had good chemistry, which I think
Her
was...
and him. Yes.
Yeah, I think that was what I liked about it the most. Like it was good dialogue.
Yes.
That's sort of what drew me to it.
Yeah, which is not typical of rom-coms.
Right. I was about to say it's very well crafted dialogue, and you're right. That's not typical.
So what you like about it is the fact that it's not actually a typical rom-com, and
Maybe.
that's okay.
And well, I'll continue with my list.
Yes, please.
Next one that I like, My Best Friend's Wedding.
Oh, I love My Best Friend's Wedding.
I will say, I thought...
Dylan McDermott.
I hated Dylan McDermott. Or Dermot Mulroney, whatever his name is.
One of the
see, I get Dylan McDermott.
I thought Julia Roberts was fantastic.
Yes.
Cameron Diaz did a good job. Julia Roberts, like, token gay friend, I thought he was fantastic.
That's who I meant.
Yeah, he's great.
I forgot. Who plays him? Dang, I will Google while you speak. Carry on.
I've only seen him in... He's the gay friend in My Best Friend's Wedding.
Well, he's actually gay.
He's in...
Rupert.
He's also in that movie adaptation of The Importance of Being Earnest,
which is
and
really
he's
good.
great in that
good.
too.
With Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whoever he is, he's good. But anyway, I liked all them. I thought Dermot Mulroney, Dylan McDermott, whoever.
It was Dermot Mulroney.
I thought he was really bad and kind of brought the movie down, but the rest of the movie's so great.
You're not supposed to. I mean, spoiler.
We could just call him Dermot McDermott. It doesn't really matter.
But anyway, for that one, I thought the writing was really good. I liked how, spoiler alert, they didn't end up together.
I know.
So that was
Rupert Everett. Rupert Everett.
There you go.
Rupert Everett. It was Rupert, but not Murdoch.
You never see him anymore.
That's true. What happened to Rupert Everett?
He was very funny.
Next one I like, and this is really the end of my ones that I like unreservedly.
We'll have to assign you movies.
We will assign.
I like You've Got Mail.
Yeah,
I like You've Got Mail. You know that's a
Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, just their chemistry sparkles.
They do.
Do you know what's so funny though? Their chemistry, whatever movie they're in, they're never actually together till the end.
That's true. Like
Sleepless in Seattle and You've Got Mail. And, they're not together. Isn't that it? Is there another?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, there's Joe versus the Volcano.
Joe versus the Volcano is hilarious. Have you seen that?
I barely remember Joe versus the Volcano.
Matt, you would love Joe versus the Volcano. Yes. It's not really rom-com. It's just com.
It's been so long. I hardly remember anything except for the Orange Crush soda.
Do you know what I have figured out? I prefer rom-com when the com is primary.
So like 75% com, 25% rom.
Yeah.
So that's sort of like When Harry Met Sally.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So I'm trying to get into the reasons why I have resisted the genre.
Delineate that for us, please.
So I think I tried to get into the merits of it right now, and I'm having trouble articulating why. I think part of it is just... I don't find the concept of two people falling in love intrinsically interesting enough for me to make that the whole movie. And when I feel like that is the whole movie, I turn into Statler and Waldorf from the Muppets.
Yes.
So let's peel that back a little bit.
Okay, are you ever not Statler and Waldorf?
Fair point.
Okay.
So there was the fact that, I felt kind of forced to watch these as a kid, but also, as a dude, I always felt like I wasn't supposed to like it, right?
That's fair.
I have this very vivid memory of getting Pride and Prejudice my freshman year of college so that I could put the book on my bookshelf so that girls would walk past and see it and think, oh, he's sensitive. Didn't work.
No.
But...
I'm shaking my head
I finally started reading the book.
And you loved it.
And I loved it. The reason that it hooked me was the opening chapter was dialogue between Mrs. Bennet and Mr. Bennet, and I thought it was hilarious. So that hooks
hilarious.
Not sure how the timeline goes, what's cause and effect.
Com-rom. It's a com-rom.
It is a com-rom.
Not a rom-com.
And I ended up going to the 2004, 5 version of Pride and Prejudice, the one with Keira Knightley
Yeah.
So I remember sitting in there in the theater as the movie's about ready to start, looking around, and it's like, oh no, Colin Firth, the 90s one.
Oh, sorry.
This Darcy and the Keira Knightley one's Matthew something.
Sorry, continue.
I remember looking around, and it was all like middle-aged women. And I'm like, what am I doing here? I have made a huge mistake.
I am so uncool.
And then the movie opens and Keira Knightley's on screen. And I'm like, okay, good. Keira Knightley's hot. So I'm a teenage boy. I'm watching the hot movie star.
The hot chick.
So that's how I have to justify it to myself.
Yeah.
So I think a big part of it is subconsciously me knowing that this isn't a genre I'm quote unquote supposed to like.
That's
I've
huge.
gotten over that with Jane Austen. As you all know, I'm a huge Jane Austen fan.
Yes.
But
You're
again,
a bigger Jane Austen fan than I am.
yes. And I think for me, I love Jane Austen because the dialogue, the writing, the characterization.
The humor.
In the humor, and the love story just sort of added on.
Yes.
But I like Jane Austen for all those other things.
Right.
It's sort of the com-rom
Yes.
we got into. But the rom, I can't do it. I can't do it. Statler Waldorf voice.
Yeah. I hear you. Yeah. I don't know.
I feel like you should try. These are two of my favorite movies. So if you don't like them,
Are you assigning? Let's assign.
Yes, I'm assigning.
Okay.
Do not tell me. Okay. Number one favorite movie of all time, Penelope.
Penelope.
Which is a rom-com, but
It is a
also
rom-com.
a fable fairy tale.
I think it's a com-rom.
Yeah.
There's way more comedy than rom.
There's a lot of comedy in
And
it.
yet,
Yeah.
it is the best. Don't
On
let this
screen,
dissuade you.
The best.
The best on-screen kiss in the history of cinema.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes.
It is fantastic.
It is.
And it's James
perfect.
McAvoy.
Perfect.
James McAvoy is
And there's
one
a
of the
twist to it. And
There's a twist.
Not to the like, but
There's
yeah,
twist
it's
to the
perfect.
kiss?
Not to the kiss.
Not like Spider-Man blood like that. No, like
No, they're not upside down.
there's a reason
cool.
Yeah, it was
beyond
good. That was
like
good.
just chemistry that it's perfect.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
And
not
then-
trite.
And then the offbeat like choice, Warm Bodies, which is
Oh,
a
that's a zombie
I've
one.
seen Warm
Zombie
Bodies.
rom-com.
Okay.
Love story, but
Yes.
zombies.
I haven't seen it though. I will have to watch that.
Okay.
Like-
I will
Good.
take that
Those-
assignment.
Yes.
I have
Let's make
written
a
those
deal.
down.
I will watch,
watch
that
them.
if you will read. No, see, but I'm asking for like way more hours than you. Just come over and lie down on my sofa and I will read Peace Like a River to you.
That seems okay.
Okay, let's do that.
Can
And
I
you
drink wine?
You can drink wine and snuggle with Winston if he lets you.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Deal.
Deal. Okay.
I don't know how I'm going to explain this to Corey.
That's all right. I'll do that. I'll take care of that. Matthew is silent laughing at this point. Okay.
Those
Yeah.
are my assignments.
Yeah, those are your assignments. Yeah. And then we will watch whatever you just said, which I already forgot.
Warm Bodies.
Warm Bodies. Yes. Okay. So, here's my question.
Okay.
What do you think keeps us from liking or thinking we will like certain? I mean, for you, Matthew, your dudeness made you think you were not supposed to like rom-coms. So, for Evangeline, why do you think you were resistant to liking anime? What is it that keeps you from that?
I think I didn't want to do the work of understanding. And in that, at that time, in the beginning, it was because I was busy.
Yeah.
And exhausted.
Mom of small children.
And, I was just like, really, I'm going to invest myself in, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But at that time, maybe it wasn't as important. And then it became something that I could share, with my kids.
Right.
Definitely became worth my while because of the connection with my kids. So, it became more important to me. And, and I'm thankful for it. But yeah, I think that was the hurdle to overcome. Was at the time I was just too busy to say, okay, I just can't understand this. And I'm not going to take the time right now to understand. It was like learning another language. And really it was another culture. And not that I was unappreciative of that culture, I just didn't understand and didn't have the bandwidth at the time to invest in understanding.
Well, that what you just said, it became important to you because it was important to your kids, and so that was a connecting point. I think that might be what makes us when we are passionate about an art form that people around us may or may not really appreciate. I think that's what makes us want to convince them, is the connection.
Probably what makes them eventually wins them over more so than us saying, you'll like this one, Matt.
If you
like
love
this
me,
one.
You better like this.
You'll like
if you
this
love
one.
me, you'll read Peace Like a River. No, but honestly, I mean, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of that, even as I was thinking about this, recording this podcast. I hadn't thought about that. It really is the human connection. Yep. When we can find common ground in appreciation of a specific book or music. I'm constantly sharing music. Sorry, my daughters, but I'll be in the car and I'll hit the Siri button and I'm like, share this song with Emmy and Bethany via text. And I don't know if they appreciate it or not.
I appreciate it. I have been on the receiving end.
You have. I'm like, oh my gosh, Evangeline, listen to this song.
I love that.
And there's something about the communal aspect of appreciating a piece of art. And maybe that is our impulse to try to convince other people to like what we like, is just the community of that. I don't know. What do you think, Matthew?
I think so. And I think there's this vulnerability when you share something with someone else. Like you're saying, I like this thing and I'm hoping you'll like it because it kind of says something about you. Not only your taste, right? But about some fundamental core part of you. Like some kind of silly example. There's a Pandora station that I've been accidentally cultivating over the course of a decade plus now. And because I've been cultivating it so much, it plays exactly my favorite kind of music all the time. I have never really shared this with other people. I'm embarrassed to share it when it's just me and Danielle in the car. Because some weird part of me is like, what if she thinks this is dumb? What if she doesn't like it? Oh no, what does that say about me? I know. Am I the sort of person who likes dumb music? Is what I'm feeling not relatable to other people? Am I alone in the cosmos?
Oh no!
So yeah, it's there's a lot when you recommend a work of art to someone.
Yeah, that's kind of funny because Spotify. Because I like some vocalists that maybe aren't technically. I don't know. I like Bob Dylan and Tom Petty and Patty Griffin, and probably a lot of listeners haven't heard of Patty Griffin, and she is one of my people that I try to make everyone know who she is because she's freaking awesome. But their voices aren't technically beautiful, let's say. But so Spotify tries to recommend, and so I get offended. It'll recommend stuff, and I'm like, that person's voice is horrific. And then I'm like, oh yeah, they're recommending that because I like Tom Petty. But I don't know, right? Yeah. I don't know. There's bad and there's bad with purpose. Come on, Spotify, figure it out. I don't know. Yeah, so I think for me, when someone recommends something to me that I have not necessarily encountered before, there's an anxiety, don't you think? I don't know. And I think context has a lot to do with it. For me, stuff that my dad liked is Southern and I don't know, Johnny Cash, stuff like that. And so it resonates with me because of my history. But then I think oftentimes the barrier is, I don't know, cultural context. I don't even know how to enter into that because I don't know what it means. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, that's where I was with anime. I don't know what this means within the culture. Yeah.
Well, and I think I've said before, I know I've said to you guys, and I think I've said on recordings, science fiction to me, once upon a time, meant robots. Because that was all I was aware of, because that's what my sister always read. And she, talked about loving science fiction, but what she loved was Isaac Asimov. And I'm just not into AI and robots. I don't know. I'm not into it. I like the Tin Man from Wizard of Oz. But other than that, I'm not into like metal people. I don't know. So.
Well, and how much of that was, that's just not my thing versus like, no, this is for like those people. Like that's for nerds. That's for like sci-fi nerds.
My sister really was not a nerd. And so actually this is a conversation we might have. Hey, Thanksgiving table. Let me see. But yeah, I'm not really sure why she liked that. But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, the reason I ask is I think that can hold us back from enjoying a lot of good artists, saying like, oh, I'm better than that, or like that like for
I'm
me,
too cool for school.
Like for me in anime, again, anime is ubiquitous now. Everyone watches anime now. But when I was growing up, anime was kind of a nerd thing, right?
Right.
And one of the ways I showed I wasn't a nerd was by not watching anime. And all that does is it cheats me out of stuff that could have been really fun. I could have really enjoyed. Like it's a kind of stupid thing that we use to hold ourselves back.
Exactly. I think we shut ourselves off because of the label that we put on it. And so I thought science fiction was all about, I don't know, technical things and computery things and metal and whatever. Yeah. But then when I was teaching creative writing, I would always make a point of asking my students at the beginning of the year, what do you like to read? Because to me, if you're going to teach someone how to write, the best place to start is to encourage them to write what they're already interested in as readers. And I ended up with this class. Every one of them liked science fiction. And I was like, oh no, I'm so not equipped for this. You're sure none of you like, I don't know, Flannery O'Connor or William Faulkner or anything like that? Sure. Because that's my bag. But no, they all wanted science fiction. And so, dutiful, nonprofit school teacher that I was, I went and I looked for the public domain science fiction. I Googled public domain science fiction stories. And lo and behold, Ray Bradbury popped up. And I was like, oh, yeah, I know that name. Ray Bradbury, sure. And so I looked up, honestly, this is what happened. I was like, okay, what's the shortest story that he's ever read? Because I liked to read out loud to them during the class. Mm-hmm. And I found, and I know I've talked about this on the podcast before, but the first story I found was The Veldt.
Such a good story. So
good and disturbing. Oh my gosh.
Are they in like a house in there, or am I thinking
it's like a futuristic house with like this sort of like super VR. It's like VR, right?
Yes.
Ray Bradbury was a prophet. He was an absolute prophet.
I remember that story.
It is so good and so terrifying and so good. Yeah. Anyway, so all I did was, I was like, The Veldt, sure. And I printed it out on the school's printer, and I took it home and I read it, and I was like, oh, this is so good. And I was immediately obsessed with Ray Bradbury. Mm-hmm. Like, just done. And then another one of his amazing stories is The Pedestrian, which if you read Fahrenheit 451, the pedestrian is alluded to.
Okay.
In the
same in-universe system.
It's the same. Yes.
I like that.
Yes. There's a girl in 451 who is the granddaughter of the pedestrian.
Well, and one of the things about Ray Bradbury and other like good science fiction writers is they tell like human stories, right?
That is exactly it.
He writes literature. It's just he uses sort of these speculative elements to drive home the points. Like 100%. I love the Martian Chronicles.
I have not read them yet.
They are human stories. They happen to take place on Mars, but he uses very human stories there, and they're really great.
And I think that is the problem. I think that is the thing, my block, I would say, to science fiction, is that I didn't really understand what science fiction was. Mm-hmm. And then once it broke and I read The Veldt, and then I continued, I was like, dang, Ray Bradbury's pretty awesome. And all of his stories are so human. And it's just the science fiction, quote unquote, air quotes over here, That's just the genre in which he explores the human condition. He's still exploring the human condition. I mean, I have not gone so far as to try to read Isaac Asimov because I really could not care less about robots. But, and so I don't know. I'm sorry. Have either of you read Isaac Asimov?
I saw the Will Smith movie version.
Yes, I did too.
Of what?
iRobot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no. I didn't bother. Anyway.
I remember the dog.
I'm just not... I saw a Will Smith something. I've seen whatever.
One of his movies. I think I know who he is. He's obscure, but I don't know. I think I've seen him.
I've heard of him.
Will Smith, he's one of those small indie actors, right?
Yes.
Is he in things anymore?
He's on Broadway?
I don't think he's been in the news recently.
No. Sorry. My brain just froze. It was something, but I can't remember what it was. But it was not iRobot.
But related to that point,
yes, sir.
I think you can kind of bring it back to what I was talking about, what Evangeline was talking about, where, I think the thing that we can connect with like good sci-fi, good, romantic comedies is, again, they're human stories. Like,
yes.
When Harry Met Sally, there's a love story in it, but it has a lot of other themes in it about
it's about more than that.
Yeah, sort of the comings and goings of like growing up, regrets, looking back on things. Same thing for, again, Jane Austen. She writes real human stories that have really good social critique. They're funny. They're insightful. There's great dialogue. Oh, and there's a romance part in it too.
By the way.
Yeah. So that those sort of stories, again, just like Ray Bradbury, just like good anime, they can tell good stories within the genre. So it would not behoove any of us to close ourselves off to stories because they're in a genre that we decide we don't like.
Right. Yeah, and the same is true for songs, like for music or for paintings. I know for a long time I was like, no, I don't like abstract art. And there's still some abstract art I don't like. But when I was homeschooling, it gave me a better understanding. And that I think that is key, is when we just sort of say, yeah, I don't like that. And we don't look at what is the motivation of the artist behind this? Why do people like this? Is there meaning that would actually resonate with me that I just don't know because I've not experienced it? I actually realized last week, to my dismay, I have literally never lived anywhere except a suburb. And it makes me really sad. And so, yes, I am. My name might as well be Karen, because I am the whitest woman ever.
She would like to speak to your manager.
I would like to speak.
But you do not have the Karen haircut.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I also have never asked to speak to any manager ever in my life, and I don't send food back.
You are not a Karen.
Thank you.
Mandy the librarian.
And Mandy the librarian. Oh, Mandy the librarian, would it were. Would it were? I don't know. Would it? I don't know. Anyway, apologies to any actual Karens out there. We know that you are not a stereotype. Anyway, but I think we close ourselves off because we assume we can't understand. But hello, God made all of us. Why do we think we can't possibly understand someone else's perspective just because? My major in college, my dad made fun of me because it was called social ecology. And he said, are you going to psychoanalyze plants? But no. It was basically what I like to say. I typically don't tell people I majored in social ecology. I tell people I majored in community psychology because that's really what it was. And it was about the psychology of a community and like what happens to people when they live in this type of environment versus that type of environment. And I think those of us who have only lived in the suburbs versus the inner city, I think we tend to believe that we don't understand one another, and we forget that we have a common creator. So yes, we do, but it expresses itself in different ways. in different songs, in different stories, in different art forms. And so, as I was saying, like abstract art, it wasn't until I was homeschooling my girls and I had to teach them why. Why did Picasso paint this woman with her nose on the side of her face and all this stuff? And I began to understand, well, he did that because he wanted us to look at it differently. And so I look at it differently. Because I was invited into the context. And I really think the context is what changes everything.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But anyway, so now I would like to invite each of you.
Woo!
Woo! Oh, Matt is so excited
I'm excited.
about this. You are excited. I will start with you. I would like you to make your case for the art form, story, song, music, whatever it is, that you would like us to appreciate.
All right, so let me start off by saying this is a genre I like so much. I will watch almost literally any example of it, no matter how terrible it is. But I'm not going to ask you all to watch those. I'm going to ask you to watch the good versions of them.
Yes, please introduce us by
I'm referring, of course, to monster movies. Creature features.
I can do creature features.
So I'm going to focus on 3 in particular that I feel are the best examples of their genre. These are all classics. There's more I could add, but I'll just focus on 3.
Yes, please.
And that, of course, is Jaws.
Oh, I saw Jaws as a 7-year-old, but I'll try again.
Alien. And Predator.
Okay.
So all of these actually have a fair amount in common. And I think the things that they have in common get to the heart of why the genre is so great. I think the genre is great because they are an exploration of the unknown. They sort of harken back to, early human beings looking out into the shadows of a dangerous world and thinking, what could be hiding there? And just letting the imagination run wild. One thing all 3 of these movies have in common is they wait a very long time to actually show the monster.
That's so true.
The shark in Jaws doesn't appear until, he doesn't appear in any big chunks till well into the 3rd act.
Chunks?
You only see little bits and pieces of him. You only see bits and pieces of the people that he eats.
Lots of blood.
Same thing with Alien. I was watching a video about Alien where for the whole runtime, the alien's actually on screen for a few minutes. You only get little bits and pieces of it. You're on this ship. It's this claustrophobic. Oh, for those of you who may not be aware, Alien, it takes place on this spaceship that's sort of out in the middle of space, and a monster alien gets on and eats everyone. Okay.
Spoiler.
Yeah. So, but they really take their sweet time. They let all the tension develop. They don't show us much of the monster. Gives us lots of time for our imagination to just run wild with it.
Yeah.
It's so good. And same thing with Predator. Predator is maybe the silliest of the 3, but it's still a great example of horror using a creature. You establish Arnold Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers. They're part of a team of just awesome mercenaries who go out into the jungle. We see them, save some people to establish their awesome mercenaries. And then the Predator comes and picks them off one by one. We establish how tough these guys are, then they get picked off, and we don't know what's going on. We don't know what this creature is. We don't know what's motivating it, and it could be anywhere in the jungle. There are these great shots of just looking into the jungle, and even though it's the middle of the day, you're like, anything could be in there. This is friggin' terrifying.
Yeah.
I get why Carl Weathers looks so afraid right now.
Yes.
And I think that at its best is what the genre is about. It is staring into the void of the unknown and just letting that tension sit with you for a while. And then when the creature actually does come, you're prepared to kind of freak out about it. It's so, when it's well done, there are very few movie watching experiences more enjoyable than a great creature flick. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I haven't said this on the podcast yet, I don't think. Hulu came out with a sequel to Predator called Prey. Outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. Yes. It's basically the Predator concept, but it takes place in like late 1700s, early 1800s American West amongst a group of Comanches.
Yeah, it was very
absolutely great.
Very good, actually.
Well,
and for the same reasons that the original Predator is great.
Okay, friend and past guest of the podcast, Dana, talks about, he should have said this on the horror podcast that we did, but he was saying the best kind of horror is really capitalizes on what he calls extreme empathy. And so I really like that. Reminds what you were saying, like you as the viewer end up feeling what the character is feeling. That's extreme empathy.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good example. Like for Jaws, the viewpoint character is the sheriff, Roy Schneider.
Oh, yeah. We're going to need a bigger boat.
He's a normal guy. He's kind of afraid of the water, and he's a viewpoint character. So we feel his terror the whole time.
Now, I need you to know that for like 5 years after I watched Jaws as a far too young person, somebody report my parents to, like, I don't know, whatever authority. Whatever. They should not have taken me. But I was afraid to swim in any natural body of water. And it was like, they would be like, Mandy, sharks don't live in lakes. And I'm like, I can't. I can't get in there. I saw Jaws.
I get
so the empathy followed me.
I was worried to swim in the deep end of a swimming pool. Because I'd look down and your just imagination goes, you just picture Jaws coming up there.
Yeah.
So that is my pitch.
I'm at least partially on the way to being convinced. So good job, sir. Yes, Evangeline, what is your pitch? I know your pitch.
You know,
but I already agree.
Because like I'm always arguing for this, and I feel like there's a misunderstanding of what Gothic literature is.
Yes.
So I'm going to make
You go.
A pitch for Gothic literature. I think people, and it's funny because, you know, I was talking about how I was looking at anime and then like realized that there was a connection between Gothic literature and anime. And one of the blocks for me for anime was heightened emotion. And people talk about the sensationalism of Gothic literature, the heightened emotion, you know, especially the critics around, you know, when it was, you know, first coming out. Oh, this is sensationalism. It's, you know, and it plays on emotion. It's all about heightened emotion. So I'm like, how funny that bothers me in anime. And I don't really see it. But I think like people think of Gothic now as sort of the melodramatic version. So they think of like the derivative stuff that they've seen, or they think of like the Addams Family, which is like cheesy. I mean, which is all good fun. You know, the Addams Family is like all good fun.
Yeah.
But, you know, they're like, how could that be art? How could that be, you know, it's fun. Sure, it's entertaining. I love it for that. But I don't think that people would be like, you know, okay, there's a serious body of work underneath. And probably people would argue, like my brother would argue with me about whether or not, you know, Gothic literature can be taken seriously. But I love the use of metaphor and symbol in Gothic literature. And one of the things that I notice and think about often is how we have not forgotten, but are not aware of how we interpret symbol. In modern times. Like, I think that we are all, that a lot of symbol is really built into our collective unconscious. But we've just forgotten how to talk about it, which is why everybody's annoyed in English class when it's like, you know, when the teacher's like, well, what does this represent? You know, and everybody rolls their eyes.
So much flack.
I know, they roll their eyes, but it's like, there's a reason.
There is.
There's a reason that, you know, we kind of pull apart. What is this representative of?
Yes. Gotcha.
That's a hard word.
It is.
You know, what is this crumbling house, especially Gothic literature? The
Fall of the
crumbling.
House of Usher.
Fall of the House of Usher.
It's all in the title.
You should
Jane Eyre too. Jane Eyre, the house fell down.
Yes, but you should start with the Fall of House of Usher because it's a Poe classic. But and it's so it's so, I think, easy to get in touch with that buried idea of symbolism. And that's why I think Gothic literature is really useful.
Well, and I love Southern Gothic.
Yes.
I mean, how many forests and roads where you can't see the
live oak and the dark,
100%.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, and like we connect trees with so much with life. But what about when trees
Southern Gothic is
yeah, that's like flipping
Don't go into the forest.
I know.
No, good man is hard to find. Don't go in there.
Trees are life, but then forest is danger.
Forest is darkness.
Why? You know, let's, so I think pulling that out, talking about that stuff, it peels back layers of, our humanity. It exposes sins, but in a way that's I think useful and constructive, not just shocking, not just for shock value.
Right.
Well, question for you, because you talked about the heightened emotion. Do you think a heightened emotion is an essential part of Gothic, or could you come up with the Gothic that doesn't have that?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. Yeah. I don't think that. I mean, think about how. I mean, Jane Eyre starts really. There was no possibility for walk that day. It's like the first line in Jane Eyre.
Yeah, Jane Eyre is all high emotion.
Yeah, well, but Jane herself is, steady.
Yes.
She is so steady.
That's a good point. She's steady through the...
Right. There's like these horrible things that happen to her. And the Red Room is horrific, when she's locked in there. But she remains steady. And it's not just constant. I mean, there's true emotion, I think.
Right.
There's true human connection, which is what we've been talking about.
Right.
So no, I don't think that all Gothic relies on sensational emotion. Now, they do bring fear and the sublime. Mm-hmm. And those are important emotions in Gothic. So most of them contain that, but it's not constant, so constant that you're exhausted and it becomes meaningless.
Exactly.
Which is kind of some of my like barrier to getting involved with some of the animes that my kids watch, because I'm like, I just can't maintain this level of emotional. You can't always be cranked
up to 10.
Yeah, I just can't.
That makes sense.
And I don't feel like those
so there's
original.
The connection, but the difference.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I think that emotion is useful when done well. Which somebody like the Bronte sisters, Bram Stoker, Mary Shelley, Poe, masters at using that emotion well.
Right. And honestly, to me, I think that might be why I like Faulkner's short stories more than novels, because it's exhausting to maintain.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. Well, for me. We are a little low on time, but Evangeline. I feel the need.
Oh, I'm going to be the hard sell.
I know you're going to be a hard sell, but I gotta appeal because you know how I love bluegrass. But here's my deal, girlfriend. I don't know if you know. I would think you would know. Bluegrass, the roots and the history are from the 1600s. Scottish
Celtic.
And Irish.
I know it. I do know that.
Okay.
I do know
that. You got to open your little heart.
I know.
Okay. And to me, bluegrass is literally my absolute favorite kind of music. It really is. And I know. Stop shaking your head. So to me, for one thing, I hear the classical roots in it and the intricacy, but also the lyrics. To me, bluegrass music is more likely to tell a story than a lot of other songs. Mm-hmm. Literally a story, like a narrative, beginning, middle, end story. Mm-hmm. Is more likely to be found in bluegrass music, and the emotion is a lot more visceral in a bluegrass song, and the skill on the fiddle, which I know, yes, a fiddle and a violin are the same instrument. FYI. They're exactly the same instrument.
I only learned that a few years ago.
Yeah.
It really shocked me.
No, I have a friend who plays the violin and he gets all mad when I say fiddle. And I'm like, hon, that's a fiddle. It just depends on how you, it's a fiddle. It just depends on how you play it. So the fiddle, but the intricacy and the mandolin, to me, I love the mandolin and the skill. So I love the skill of the musicians with the banjo, the mandolin, and the fiddle. But more than that, the story and the connection to things of old, to me, is what I just love about bluegrass music. And you can hear it. You can hear the Irish and the Scottish roots in it.
Isn't there a bluegrass festival in Colorado?
Yes.
Telluride, maybe?
I think it is Telluride.
I'll go with you. One year.
Here is my issue. I have agoraphobia, and so I can never go to festivals because they freak me out. Okay. But maybe if you, if I put a blindfold on and you just leave me.
I thought we would put a GoPro on my head. And then you could stay in the hotel room.
No,
and I could go.
I'll go with you as long as I don't have to notice how close everyone is to me. This is my issue.
This is get you a bubble.
A bubble. Yes, put me in a bubble.
Okay.
Put me in a bubble. We can do that. Okay, deal?
Deal.
Oh, it's on record.
Okay.
So we all have our homework. Matt has
We all have
movies to
our
watch.
I have Penelope and Warm Bodies.
Yes, and you still, Evangeline,
have Peace
Like a River, but I have agreed to read it to you.
Okay.
And I will watch Spirited Away.
Awesome.
And
Howl's Moving Castle.
Whatever you say. Okay. As long as there's chocolate and wine involved.
Howl's Moving Castle is Gothic. That's like anime and Gothic together.
Oh, let's start with that one,
and
girlfriend.
It has a movie. I mean, Howl's Moving Castle.
Is there bluegrass music?
The castle moves. It's awesome.
What? Is that a spoiler?
The castle moves. No, it's called Howl's Moving Castle.
All right,
it's not a spoiler that the castle moves.
Okay. All right. Well, things are winding down and moving along with the castle at the Anselm Digital Pub. The fire is down to embers. The customers are trundling home, and you've polished off your final glass. Once again, Believe to See is a podcast of the Anselm Society Arts Guild. To find out more about the Anselm Society, and you should totally want to, please visit us at anselmsociety.org. And while you're at it, please rate and review the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.